Today we're going to be looking at converting meshes to grease pencil, and I've got a few things that I want to show you on this. It sounds like a pretty easy, technique, but there's actually a bit involved and a few things that it may surprise you, and that you might want to look at. So just got default Blender opened up, and I'm just going to right click on the default cube there and just go convert to grease pencil to show you what it does. All right, and what we've got here is obviously the cube is now a grease pencil object. It's also got this little convert to dialog box that comes up when we begin. I'm just going to go over to my properties, object data properties over here, and what it's done is it's created in this grease pencil file a cube lines layer and a cube fills layer. But it's done something a little bit specific that we looked at in a live stream a little while ago, and people have been asking about the stroke depth order. This is when it comes in really handy, because right now the default stroke depth order is 3D location and not 2D layers. Watch what happens after we convert a 3D object to grease pencil if we change the stroke depth order to 2D layers. Do you see how all of the lines here on the cube now are in front, as if this cube is somehow transparent? Why is that? Well, that's because if I just go back to 3D layers and I just swing into 3D view, what the convert to grease pencil tool has done is literally created strokes and fills all around. This is different from the create line art modifier, which we looked at, in which the line art modifier takes the camera view and only projects those lines on what we see. And so when we move the camera around, those lines are constantly reprojected. This creates it's not geometry exactly, but it creates grease pencil objects and strokes and fills that exist in 3D space, but they still obey the rules of a grease pencil object. Here's what I mean. So the target is obviously grease pencil when we're converting, because the convert to tool is all-encompassing. You can change it to a curve, other things, or even, I think this is curve data. This could be like for particles. Anyway, we've got things like the line thickness, so we can play around with the thickness, but already you can see how there's a bit of artifacting going on here on this corner, or when we spin around it, what's going on here? It's because the fills are kind of poking through. It's got a threshold angle, so anything, is it above or below this angle, will get rendered. So if we drop this right down, that's fine. If we take this right up to 180 degrees, which is the opposite, because this doesn't really have an effect on a cube, but something like a monkey's head or that sort of thing, it will. Then this stroke offset is really interesting, because remember, we're looking at the stroke depth order in 3D location, so that if the stroke offset is set a little bit higher, right, you notice how now those strokes are offset off of the original cube, or the fills here, right? So that's also a pretty important feature. So we might just drop down this thickness to 5. We might just keep that offset to its default at 0.1, and take a look at a couple of the other options here. One of them is to keep original. Hello, Kelly. Oh, wow. You are a premium subscriber. I didn't see that. That's amazing. Good, Kelly. All right, so thanks for subscribing. I've got to check that out at some point. Keeping original means that this cube is still here. So if we move this cube over, now we have the original cube and this grease pencil object. So if I can now select this original cube, I'm going to do something else, and that is I'm going to go into edge mode, and select a couple of edges here. Okay, let's just select these. No, you know what? Let's make things interesting. Let's put in a couple of edge loops here, right? And I'm going to, what I'm doing here, I'm going Shift Alt. You know what? Yes, one thing we're going to have to do is, because we're on this gray background, let's screencast keys. Let's bump the color up so we can actually see what's going on with the screencast keys. Yep, let's do that. And we'll just go back to maybe tool here. Right, so I'm selecting an edge in edge select mode. You can see that it's up there. Shift Alt, and I can click on that edge, and it selects the edge loop right round. Shift Alt, click on that edge, and this edge. Okay. Is this going to cause any issues here? Probably not. I'm going to go Control E to bring my edge contextual menu up, and I'm going to mark a seam. Right, so now we have some seams marked. Let's go ahead and do that operation again. Convert to grease pencil. Now we can see that those seams that we marked are also marked as edges. We can also select something like only seam edges, and you can see automatically that only the edges that were marked as seamed are now grease pencil lines, and the faces are also exported. I'll just make that cube invisible here. We can export just the seams if we wanted to. So there's various things you can do with that convert to grease pencil tool. Now we're going to start talking practicalities in a second, so I might go ahead and delete this grease pencil object. Let's bring back our cube, and we might go ahead and clear those seams, because now I want to talk materials. Right now what's happened here is that with just a default cube with no materials added, we've got these cube fills and lines, and under our materials options we actually have two materials created. We've got a cube material and a cube stroke, and they are simply a stroke and a fill, and they've just gone with some basic default colors. The fill is a light one, the stroke is obviously black. But what if our cube had materials on it? Well, I'm just going to raise this up a little bit, and let's go and open our shader view. Our default material, actually, what should we do it on the side? No, probably not. No, look, I don't need to see a lot of these details. We just need to see two things. One, it's a principled BDSF shader. And the color, the base color, let's make this maybe a sort of an orange yellow, all right? And we'll call this material yellow. And we may as well go into rendered mode so that we can see that. And maybe we'll make our world color nice and bright as well, so it'll look great when it stands out against everything else. Going back to materials, I'm going to add a material slot. I'm going to add the yellow material to it, and I'm going to hit this 2 to duplicate that material. And let's call this blue. Now, because the blue material is also selected, I can go ahead and change that color. Now, nothing's happened yet because obviously, oh, Sweden is up. Hi, how's it going? Because the default material is the top slot. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to make one more material here. Let's click on that, either yellow or blue, the same process. Click that numeral 2, and maybe we'll make this red. Okay, so now we've got a red material as well. So we've got yellow, blue, red. Let's assign them to some faces here. So I might just make this grease pencil object invisible. And let's go into edit mode. I'm going to hit 3, numeral 3 for faces. Actually, let's just get rid of all of those edges. So I'm just going to go dissolve edges by doing the select, X dissolve edges. 3. Now we're in face select mode. Excellent. We'll leave this front one and this back one yellow. You know what I'm going to do? No, I don't want to save. I want to Shift S, cursor to active, And yeah, now we're rotating around the cursor a little bit easier. Great. Right. Let's take these two side ones, and we will assign these ones a blue texture. And then I'll take the top and the bottom of the cube, shift select, and I'll assign them the red texture. So now we have a cube with 3 different textures. I might just bring this back to the world origin. So Alt G should get it back to where it was. I'm just going to take a look at the camera because that's the easiest one to look at. These are principled BDSF shaders. To save some time and illustrate the point, how about we make the blue texture a not principled BDSF shader? So instead of this, over here in my material properties, I'm going to click on the principled BDSF and just make this a simple diffuse shader. Now you can see here, right, that we've got that color, and we'll probably need to make this blue again. Right, no matter. This isn't the principled shader. Right, I think I've made that clear. Stop repeating yourself, Paul. Now let's go ahead and do that right-click, convert to grease pencil. And so we've got this object. We want to export the faces. We don't want only the seamed edges. We want to keep the original. Everything else should stay the same, and we'll make that cube invisible. What happens? It's grayed out. We have created some materials, but none of them have the color. And I suspect this is because one of them was not a principled BDSF material. So I'm just going to undo this operation. Let's make this a principled BDSF shader again. Let's make this blue. Hopefully this works. Right click, convert, grease pencil, export faces, and if we... this is interesting. Did it last time. All right. Wonder what's going on. Could be a 3.4 thing. In 3.4, it did this. Maybe they fixed it in 3.4. What I wanted to show you was that, okay, in 3.4, if you do this with a principled shader, the red, yellow, and blue is actually maintained. This is really annoying. It's made a liar out of me. So I'm going to have to go ahead and change those colors manually to these. The slots are there, right? But the colors are not. And so with these 3 slots, we've now colored the file, like they've got those in there. And the cube stroke is a stroke material. So we've obviously got this cube stroke duplicated a couple of times because we've made a couple of grease pencil objects. So now we've got this default cube. Let's select the cube, grab in the X direction. All right. And so this is all well and good. The grease pencil object here, right? If we move the light around it, it's responsive to light because, as we know, you can have fills and lines that use the lights on each of these layers, right? So we can even light these objects to get some more subtle effects, like this really nice gradient. Now, what if we had something a little bit more complex? And this is where I'm going to open up an asset browser, and this is a more practical way of doing things. And I'm wondering, given what just happened here, if using 3 point, because basically this is what I want to recreate here. That's right, I used a plugin for this. So I think I might just skip ahead and show you this plugin. Let's hide this collection. We'll bring the camera and we'll bring the light out of that collection. We'll call this cubes, and we will make this disappear. All right, let's bring this back down to this, and let's open up an asset browser. Or should we just go with the... Yeah, no, we'll do this. We'll go open asset browser. I've already preset my Blender assets library. I've got some urban apartment objects that I want to use. Windows, walls, pavement now. If anyone, shameless plug for Cubicity, if anyone's done Kent Trammell's Cubicity, it goes right into how to use the asset browser. I want to use this because I just want to drag and drop a bunch of stuff and make a little scene real quick, and then convert this to grease pencil to show you a practical way of doing things. And I want things with a little bit of detail. So let's bring in, you know what, I'm going to make a new collection. Call this apartment. Yep, and with that selected, now I'm going to bring in a couple of these. Okay, dragging and drop. Okay, there's that. Urban pavement is that. Now, I really like this staircase. This is a sub-entrance. You're also going to notice one of the funny features. This sub-entrance is actually a collection. So the way to work with these sorts of collections. Yes, Elizabeth has been doing the course. The way to work with these collections, it's a bit, I don't know if it's a glitch, it's a bit buggy, but you don't have the collection selected. You open up that collection and then you have to drag the collection out of the collection and into the main collection. And then we have to delete the original collection. So then this is usable, and we can sort of see everything inside it. It's a bit of a pain, but look, it all works pretty well. I'm just going to snap all of these to the center here. Let's get a couple of walls in. I think I might just go with a wall plane. A window would be nice. So maybe, yeah, let's look. This arch window would be much more interesting. Now this is a collection as well. It's all going to the sub-entrance. We don't want that. We want it all into the apartment. And the windows, we're going to have to do the same trick out of that collection. Let's get that window gone. And let's select all and bring... Oh, no. Let's select the window collection. And Alt-G to get all of that out. I don't want to Alt-G everything. So just that wall again. While I'm at it, let's grab a corner. That'd be nice. Should we do a roof? Oh, you know what? Let's just get a doorway in, and then we'll leave the roof. I don't want to get too carried away here, obviously. And there's the door, which we're going to have to do the corner plane out of the window collection. Yep, door plane. Let's grab that. See, if I select it and drag it out, it doesn't let me. I don't know why. So we're going to have to select something else, grab that, drag it out, and then we can delete the orange one there. And if we select that, okay, we've got enough assets there. Let's join these areas, and let's just build a very small apartment here. So we've got a corner. I'm just going to snap that over there. It's all in increments, by the way, so it's quite easy to... okay, I'm just going to rotate that 90 degrees, and just holding down my control to snap, duplicate that over there. Let's bring this doorway. Yeah, well, we'll definitely need a wall there. The door plane should... goodness, maybe if we... this is a tough bit about it. Okay, we'll bring the door over here. And the window, we will rotate the X direction 90 degrees. Grab in the Y direction. There we go. Our wall plane is here. Aha, yes. We've also got a couple of things here which we need to move over so that we can see our little sub basement area, right? So, yeah, this is a little bit of asset management, but once I've created everything... Okay, that's 7.5 because it's on the 5 increment. And so now we have... Oh, hang on a minute. What's going on here? There. Aha. There we go. All right. So now we've got a little apartment corner. Isn't that cute? So the next thing we want to do is we want to make sure that there are no modifiers on anything. I think there could be a couple of things. No, that was on the roof objects. Okay, so long as there's no modifiers, now we can select all of the objects. Okay, I'm going to going to just go select all, and then I'm going to have to shift double click on the light and on the camera, and then shift select this corner here so that only the objects are selected. Control J, going to join everything. All right, I could continue to clean this up, but obviously I don't have the time. What I want to do is, let's move this camera back a little bit. Okay, so that we can see our lovely little scene. Okay, this is just a little apartment corner. And next thing we do is we right click. Oh, actually, we don't need these anymore, so we can get those out. Right click, convert to grease pencil. Now, what's going on? First off, let's hide the original so we can see a little bit better. We've got the stroke offset, we've got the thickness that we can play around with, all that sort of stuff. Maybe we'll just turn off the keep original for a second so we can see. But do you see that every single edge has been etched out? I mean, there are edges that we don't want, and so this would demand a lot of cleanup. Or, before you do the conversion, you mark the seams that you want to add, and then click on the only seam edges. Because there are no seams marked, no edges are available here. But if we had them, then it would do it. And it would be kind of intricate because it's a very intricate model. So what I'm going to do is I'll delete that grease pencil object, and I'm going to show you a faster way. And this involves a free add-on, and I really want to show this. It's available on Blender Market. I'll see if I can put a link in the show notes and all that sort of stuff. But someone contacted me, they showed me this thing, and it is brilliant. It basically does the convert to, but it gives you a bunch more options. It's really, really cool. So I've actually gone ahead and loaded this on, and it should be under Object, Grease Pencil from Mesh. The instructions are all on there. I just want to show you how this works. And I click on that, and this dialog comes up. What do we want? Lines, yes. Fills, yes. Outlines would be nice. Outlines does something really, really cool. Shadows is interesting, but I won't go there, but it will do a form shadow, which is really cool. Anything else that I needed to tick? I think I might just leave everything else at default, just so we see what happens. But we can do things like mark sharp, mark crease, mark freestyle. Any of the edges that you can mark, you've got an option to do this. And let's see what happens when we hit OK. It's a lot cleaner, all right? There are some lines there that obviously, we don't want the seams there, but that's because I didn't join them. But take a look at the pavement here, right? The pavement looks much more like the model. And it saves you so much time. Now, if we select this object, let's see what it's actually gone and done. Well, it's added a couple of modifiers by default. It's got a subdivide, simplify, and a thickness modifier, right? So you can dynamically change the thickness of that line through a modifier instead. These aren't necessary for this particular model. Under materials, though, it's faithfully recreated all of the materials that were shaders, and some of these were emission shaders or diffuse shaders, but it's gone and created fill materials without us having to go in and color pick and all that sort of stuff. So it's done a heck of a lot of work for us at the click of a button. That's why I really like this particular plugin, right? But again, it's just done a lines and a fills layer. Everything is on 3D location, and all of the default lines have been placed a little bit above. So I really wanted to show you some of those features because then where this is useful, Paul, with a GP conversion, cut down the file size. Not entirely sure, Kelly. I haven't seen... it's obviously got less information, but when you're dealing with Grease Pencil, it depends on how big your scene is. I wouldn't say this is something that is necessarily a concern, but obviously it's got less line information. Now, of course, editing this stuff, once we're in Grease Pencil, let's say that we just made the apartment not visible for a second, but we had this light, and maybe the light is a sun lamp. No, we'll leave it at point. Points tend to do better with grease pencil objects. This should... Hang on, why is the... because by default, this thing is going don't use lights. And so, ooh, this is very moody. No, we want to select light. And so if we wanted something like a street lamp or something like that, maybe we can get some nice lighting in there. And it's all in a 3D scene. So setting up other cameras and all that sort of stuff, camera switching, would be very easy because this is now a toon shaded object that just it has got all the grease pencil capabilities. And what do I mean by that? Well, if we went in and wanted to edit some lines, is this the effect they use for that game with the talkie toaster gun? Making a note here to look up the talkie toaster gun game. It sounds amazing. And then see if this is the effect that they use. Yeah, it'll be something similar. Anyway, I'm going to go into edit mode, and already you can see that you can edit lines, and there are some edges here that were not rendered with line work. We can disable the fills, let's say, and if we go into line, will that allow us? No, this is where I ran into a little bit of trouble before as well. Sometimes selecting points is a bit problematic, you see, because there's a lot of duplicates in lines and all that sort of stuff. So depending on what my workflow personally would be, clean up the mesh as much as possible. Make sure there's information that this can etch out. Not a talkie toaster, but the gun talks. Dude, I'm already sold on that idea, and that's just even better. So I'm going to Google this harder as soon as I get off that. Yeah, let me look. Yes, you want to put a link in there? I'm going to look it up. Thanks, Cirrus. Okay, yeah, so anyway, you can go in and edit stuff. Like, let's say, for example, we wanted some of these lines, to be a little bit more fatter or that sort of stuff. Or we want to put in a really neat effect. I'm just going to cancel all of these. We don't need them because we can just thicken up the lines. How long have I got? I've got 2 minutes to show you this really cool effect. So I'm going to go into everything, fatten up all those lines a little bit using Alt-S. And now I'm going to add this really cool build modifier. Here's why I want to show you the build modifier. I love this. I love this so much. Factor, right? The build modifier allows you to do sort of like a draw-on effect. Okay, and if we went with transition, grow, shrink, vanish, we also have fade, and so we can go thickness and opacity. And so let's say the factor is at 100%. The fade, right? What this does is it allows us to, if we went in real close, we could have this sort of. Hang on, let's go fade. Yeah, right. Factor. It would fade on, fade off. It's not doing what I wanted it to do, which is a little bit different. I wanted it sort of like to have strokes that are a point. But basically, the build modifier animates this over time. So let me open up the dope sheet here. Go to grease pencil and sequential, concurrent, additive, transition, grow. Not the factor, right? But over 100 frames, and as we play that, it does this, right? That's how you get a really cool build effect. And so maybe we'll open up those fills there, and because the entire thing is being affected, the fills are also filling in like a coloring book. If we didn't want to affect that layer, we can just go to Influence. This only works on modifiers, by the way, not effects. Layer, lines. Now the fill remains the same, but the lines come in like that. Okay, and that's time. That's all I got time for today, guys. I hope that showed you a few really neat tricks that you can do with grease pencil and converting to grease pencil, and that I've explained it thoroughly enough, because this is a really great way to take 3D models that you may have created, turn them into grease pencil objects, and then do extra grease pencil things. Now, obviously, I didn't cover things such as texturing. TLDR version, texturing doesn't translate or work, all right? It has to be basic Blender materials. That's the only thing that gets translated. One more thing, actually. I do want to show you one more thing. I'm just going to go into draw mode here so we can see our palette, all right? Going to go into color attribute mode. There's a little hidden menu here. Skip to the 3-minute. Little hidden menu here, right? There's a little specials menu on the side of the materials. And if I go convert materials to color attribute, right? Now we have one solid fill material. But check this out. Under our palettes, we now have a palette that is called the Urban Pavement Corner Lines.gp, and each of those colors have been transported to the palette instead. Now, to answer your question, Kelly, this will bring down file size because instead of 100 materials, now you've just got one material and a lot of palette colors. So that's another little hidden feature I really wanted to show you guys there. So anyway, I'm going to have to say bye for now. Thank you guys for joining me. This has been great, and I'll be back again next week. It's an almost promise. Okay, bye for now. Let's end the stream there. All right.